Hello everyone, Micah Fights with Friends. Yesterday we had the interview with Jalen Turner, current UFC veteran, former Bellator World Series of Fighting fighter, and it just made me think of how long I've been doing Fighters and Friends. This is interviews with people inside the MMA community and how fortunate we are to have had these guys share their lives with the Fights of Friends family. And I just wanted to go through this. 21 episodes now. It's all started on February 8th. How many of you were with me on February 8th of 2018? Mr. International Shonie Carter from The Ultimate Fighter Season 4. The comeback has a spinning back fist knockout over Matt Serra. The first spinning back fist knockout in the history of the UFC. Gotten to be a great friend of mine. Was introduced to me by another gentleman I'll be talking about here in a minute. Tom Atencio, former VP of Affliction MMA. They had Fedor. They had Fedor versus Andrei Arlovsky, Fedor versus Tim Sylvia, and of course he ran Affliction Clothing. Back in the day, Tom Atencio, quite the accomplished gentleman, and he was nice enough to give us his time for about 57 minutes. Kyle the Monster Nelson, a friend of mine, turned me on to this guy over there in Canada because he was the top featherweight over in Canada. He says, hey, this guy's my friend. He's really good. I think he's going to end up in the UFC. Well, sure enough, he is in the UFC now. We made a push to get him in there. He was on a Canadian card as a last-minute replacement, and he will have a fight coming up soon. Very impressive fighter, super nice guy as well. Number 4, Ian Brewster. Smartest guy I know. Guy is literally an astrophysicist. Has a degree in being an astrophysicist. He's an official advisor to the country of Canada. And when I met him, it was when he was the COO of W1 MMA. Back when I tried to start, I had started a website, an MMA website, years back, probably almost 10 years back. We got to be good friends, and he's the one who introduced me to those first 3 guests, as well as number 8 that we'll be getting to here in a minute. Number 5 was the first active UFC fighter we had on the show, Smiling Sam Alvey. Gotten to know him good, gotten to be good friends with him. He's a great guy. Luke Kumo, one of you guys in the chat, I believe it might have been Arcade Chaos. If it wasn't, somebody correct me on who it was that introduced us, but somebody went out there and put the bug in Luke's ear, and we got him on the show, and he's a really, really nice, intelligent guy. Marcus Davis was on season 2 as well with Luke Kumo. They're both on their season number 2. Marcus, the Irish hand grenade Davis, he was the original Irish superstar. Had some great fights. Was a former professional boxer turned MMA. A very opinionated guy too. Very giving of his time on this interview, and it was a lot of fun. Pete Spratt, I've really enjoyed getting to know this guy. Pete, the special weapon Spratt. We've had some spats, a little bit friendly spats, of course, on Facebook. Since then, he was, of course, on Tough Season 4, the comeback as well. Mr. Ian Brewster introduced us as well, and he teaches 5 days a week. Teaches several classes, has a budding dojo, and is always involved in the mixed martial arts community, as well as training with several active fighters. Matt Horwich, Ian Brewster again introduced us. One of my favorite guys to hang out with. This guy is so fun. Friends with Jason Mayhem Miller. He's eccentric. He's got that beautiful personality like Jason Mayhem Miller, but he behaves himself. So God bless the multiverse, and God bless Matt Horowitz. Bruce Lutch Medial, How I got involved with him was a lead up to a fight card on a porn site, believe it or not. We ended up doing a fight card on a porn site. There was no porn on there. It was Cam Soda did a fight card, and it was felony Charles Bennett, who has his own channel out there, and this was his opponent, Bruce Lechmedio. I've gotten to be very good friends with him. We talk on probably every couple of weeks. Really, really good guy. Also teaches full time. I have no doubt if he wants to, he's going to be in the Bellator or UFC, I imagine, anytime soon. And God, did they have a grudge match, him and Charles Bennett. And the back and forth banter before this fight was captured in these two interviews with Charles Bennett and Bruce Lechmedio. Me and Bruce got to be good friends. Charles Bennett got pissed off and hung up on me. It is what it is. And Smiling Sam Alvey came on again before his fight with Nogueira. Another great interview with him. Like I said, a nice guy. We've kind of already went over him, but I can't go over Smiling Sam enough. Just a great guy. And then we had our first boxing guy. It's still our only boxing guy, but Hasim Rahman Jr., the son of the last heavyweight to have all three major belts unified, the WBA, WBC, and IBF. His father knocked out Lennox Lewis in the fourth round, and Hasim Rahman Jr. is undefeated, actually, but having a hard time getting some fights because when people find out who he is, they don't want to sign their name on the dotted line. Boxers are very protective of their records, and I wanted him to push for that Anthony Joshua fight, but we just need to get him in there. The next one, episode 14, was a very interesting guy over in India. His name is Gracian Milton de Souza. He's the owner of International Fight League over there in India. He was doing a thing that was like a 6-man tournament, 6 guys in the cage at once. 6 men enter, 1 man leaves. They've changed the format of the fighting in that organization since our interview. But this guy is actually a really, really good advocate for fighters. He's a former professional kickboxer himself, and he really cares about the fighters, and I just can't say enough good things about him. Definitely a good interview to check out. And then Mike Jackson. We had his post-fight interview, his UFC 225 interview. Over here, I think these got out of order possibly. We had his pre-fight and his post-fight interview. We had him on here twice for episode 15 and episode 18. So thanks again to Mike Jackson. He also has his own podcast. I know it's in I know it's in the description. I should have it in front of me, but amazing guest, guy I never thought would come on the show. I've been a fan, as you know, of the UFC since 1993, and Art Davie, the creator and co-founder of the UFC, was on Fighters and Friends, and it was an incredible interview. He told me a lot of things about the founding of the UFC, answered a lot of questions that I had about those first UFCs. And I got to tell you, I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about having him on the show, that none of this would be possible. None of it would ever have happened if it was not for that man, Art Davie. And then that brings us to the next generation, episode 17. The Guajardo brothers. There's a fight I have in our Cage Warriors from Hector Guajardo. Both brothers were on this, and this was actually an MMA Live. I used to call it just MMA Live. It was one of those episodes, but in there is an interview with the Guajardo brothers. It's definitely worth a watch. Then we get to episode 19. We had a little bit of break, but I think it was well worth it. Of course, we got The Natural and UFC Hall of Famer, former light heavyweight champion Randy Couture. That had been my biggest interview, still my biggest interview to date. And then we got John Fitch, UFC veteran, now in Bellator. Will be fighting, if you're watching this week, we'll be fighting this Saturday, of course, against Rory McDonald, and the main event at Bellator 220. Tries to become the only fighter ever to challenge for belts in the World Series of Fighting, which is now the PFL, the UFC, and Bellator. And good luck, my friend, against Rory McDonald. I will be rooting for him. And then, of course, yesterday, another up-and-comer, Bellator, World Series of Fighting, and UFC fighter, Jalen Turner. He's got wins in all of those organizations now, just 23 years old. Check out that. If you weren't able to catch that interview during the premiere, he goes over some really cool and interesting stories. Definitely, he's trying to grow his Instagram and Twitter too. Very important for active fighters here, especially. Make sure you check out the active fighters if you're not already following them. John Fitch, Sam Alvey, and other fighters that you're interested in. Thank you guys for supporting me through this entire thing, hitting 5,000 subscribers recently. I hope you enjoyed where we've went with Fighters and Friends up till this point. And this is just getting started. I have my feelers out there looking for more interviews, more big fight names. We have another UFC Hall of Famer that I've been talking to that we're going to get on the show here soon. But thank you for the support up to this point. As always, I love you. I respect you. And I'll see your fine asses later.